What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be making a basic video right now of how to change an oil on a vehicle. Today we're going to be working on a 2011 Volkswagen Routan, but it's pretty basic of how I'm going to change the oil. We're not going to specifically attack this is the vehicle, how to do it on this vehicle. This is just a very simple video of how to change the oil on any vehicle. So let's go ahead and attack that and go from there. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your nearest, store. You can go to Walmart if you want, or you can go to auto parts store, or you can go to your dealer. Whatever vehicle you may have, Nissan, Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, Ford, Volkswagen, whatever it may be, make sure you get the specific oil. Okay, if you don't know what type of oil it is, look under your engine hood. It'll either say there on the cap or in your vehicle manual in your glove compartment. If it doesn't say there, Google it or call around. Okay, so first thing you want to do is to change the oil is you want to go ahead and pick up oil. Okay, so for your oil, you want to pick up the specific oil for your vehicle. When you look up the oil specification, it will say either 5W30, 5W20, whatever it may be. Okay, so once you pick that up, now next you want to know is how much oil does your vehicle hold. So for most vehicles, smaller engine like four cylinders, they hold about 4.5 quarts. Larger vehicles, they'll hold up to 4.5 to 7 quarts. So for this vehicle right here, it's only going to hold about close to 5 quarts. Okay, but the key is to put about 4 quarts in it, check it with your dipstick, and then if it needs more, top it off. Okay, so that's out of the way. Once you have your oil, you need your oil filter. Okay, and you need to look up the specification of what kind of oil filter it will need. Okay, some vehicle will have multiple types of oil filter needed for the vehicles. There'll be larger ones, smaller ones, or depending on where your oil filter lies, underneath the car, on the side of the car, or on top of the on the motor. Not on top of the car or under the car, but under your motor or on top of your motor, depending on where your oil filter is the type of oil filter you're going to need. But again, look it up, call around, or Google it. So for this vehicle, the oil filter is going to be on top. Most vehicle, if the oil filter is not on top, it's on the bottom, you will have something similar to this. So with this, when you have this type of oil filter on the side of the engine, like Nissans do or Toyotas, that will be underneath or in the front. Key thing for this type of oil filters, okay, before you put these oil filter on, you want to pre-fill these oil filters with oil. Okay, if you can, go ahead and fill it up to the top, and that'll make it easier for you if this thing goes straight up from the bottom. Now, if it goes to the side, you only want to fill this up halfway or a quarter, okay, and then put it in there. Why? Because one, you want to lubricate the O-ring, okay, and two, you want to pre-fill these because when you first start these vehicles, this thing will be empty, and most of your oil that's in the vehicle is going to go into this filter. So the pump is going to pump oil into this. If it already has oil in it, it won't pump as hard. It's not a major thing, but it's a helpful thing. So keep that in mind. Now the other type of oil filter, like these right here, that looks like air filters, you won't need to do that. You don't need to pre-fill these oil filters with oil because really you can't, because it's coming from the top. You fill it up, you turn it upside down, oil is just going to slip right out. On top of that note, when you take the oil filter off, you want to keep in mind that you want to keep an eye on the O-ring here that goes around the oil filter. When you take the old one off, make sure the old oil O-ring comes off, because you do not want to leave these O-rings from the old one on there, and then when you put the new one on, now you got 2 layers of O-rings and it'll be too thick, and when you put this on, it's gonna leak from the oil filter because you have 2 O-rings. You might think having 2 O-rings will help better and keep it sealed, but it will not. So keep in mind, when you take the old oil filter out, you make sure the old O-ring is completely off, okay? So to do that, you look where you screw this on. If you see the old O-ring on there, peel it off. Or you look on the filter. If it's missing and you see this one is right there, if you see the old oil filter and does not have an O-ring, that means the O-ring is still on the vehicle, so you need to peel that off, okay? So that's the key. Alright, so now that we have that in mind, it's very simple to change your oil. All you need is a socket wrench or a wrench, okay? So, and all the oil drain is going to be from the bottom of the car, okay? There's going to be 2 parts. There's going to be the transmission area, depending on the front wheel drive or rear wheel drive, and then there's the engine side, okay? If it's a front wheel drive, like the vehicles we're about to change, the engine's going to either lie on the passenger side and the transmission is going to be on the driver's side, or vice versa, okay? Now, if it's a rear wheel drive, the engine, okay, will face towards the front, and then the transmission will face towards the middle of the vehicle, towards the back, okay? So how to identify the engine where it's facing is you look where the serpentine belt is, the rubber belt that's on the engine. Wherever the belt is facing, that will let you know if you have a front wheel drive or a rear wheel drive. So if you see the belt on facing towards the passenger side or facing towards the driver's side, that means it's a front wheel drive. Now if you see the belt facing to the front of the car, that means it's a rear wheel drive, okay? So let's go under the vehicle and show you where the oil plug is. Alright, first thing you want to do before changing your oil is you want to warm up the vehicle to engine temperature. After you've done that, then you want to either jack the vehicle up, the front end, or drive it on top of a ramp, or if you have a lift your vehicle up. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to pop the hood. So to access the hood, you want to open your driver's side door, and underneath where your foot pedals are, there will be a latch under there that will pull and unlatch the hood. So on this vehicle, it will lay right here. You will pull, and sometimes it will lay here on the side or in the center of the dash. So next, you're going to want to open the hood, and a lot of times that the latch to open the hood will be in the center, in the front, or it'll be on the side. And what you want to do is you want to just kind of lift it a little and maybe look under there or feel around. In this case, it's going to be in the center. So next, what you want to do is, if your engine has an engine cover, you want to, if it has clips, go ahead and unclip them. This one is just clipped on, so we're just going to pull up. So right here is where we put oil, and this is where the oil cap is. And as you can see, when I take the oil cap off, you can see that the oil cap actually tells you what type of oil is used for this vehicle. SAE 5W30 engine oil. And then on top of this vehicle, the oil filter actually lays right here. So for us to access it, we can actually remove this air duct out of the way and then take that oil filter off. But first, we're going to drain the oil. So before draining the oil, what you're going to need is a catch bucket, a rag, and a socket wrench. So for some vehicle, a socket wrench or a wrench, depending on different size of the socket. For this vehicle, it's going to be a 12 millimeter, and we're just going to break it loose and then unscrew it and then drain the oil. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure which way the engine, which side the engine is laying on and which side the transmission. This is a front wheel drive, so the engine right here, if you can see the serpentine belt, that this engine is going to be on the passenger side facing towards the passenger side. So, and the transmission is on the driver's side. So this is a front wheel drive vehicle. So the oil pan will be underneath where the motor is, and the transmission is on the other side. So don't get it mistakenly wrong. So underneath the vehicle, a lot of times your oil pan will be underneath, and the oil drain plug right here will either face straight down or to an angle. Make sure you have your catch bucket of whichever way the oil plug is going to aim at, and then you're going to get your socket, your wrench or your socket wrench, and you're going to break it loose. Once you broke it loose, then you're going to go ahead and, if you can, turn it by hand. And let the oil drain. And this is where you're going to need your rag and wipe the plug or extra oil that's leaking if you made a mess. For your oil to drain faster, take the cap off. Once your oil has completely drained out, you can actually see there should be a total of almost 4 quarts or 4 liters of oil that drained out. So that gives you an idea of how much oil you need to put back in. Once the oil is completely drained out, you want to grab your drain plug and you want to go ahead and put it back on. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Get your little rag here, wipe it down. And then you want to get your wrench and tighten it up. Nice and snug, not too tight. So for this motor, the oil filter lays right here. So on most vehicles, you're going to have to check around on where your oil filters will lie. If your oil filter is on the top of the motor, it will either lie on the side, the back, the front, wherever it may be, but it's going to be a canister that screws on from the top. Now other vehicles like Hondas, Acuras, Toyotas or whatnot, sometimes you'll get an old-fashioned oil filter that will be on the bottom, and sometimes near the behind the wheel, near the firewall, or on the in the front of the engine but on below. And these are the type of oil that screws oil filters that screws on from the bottom to the top. So what we're going to do here is we're going to remove this hose here, put it to the side. And then we're going to go ahead and get this air duct off. And some vehicle will be different, where you don't have to remove anything to access it. I'm going to get my 15/16 socket and go ahead and loosen that up. Once I loosen it, I can go ahead and turn it by hand. going to go ahead and have our rag ready, because when we pull it out, oil will leak. I have my rag ready now. I'm going to go ahead and pull my oil filter out. And this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove my old oil filter. And basically you're just going to pull it off. Just like that. And then on top of that, we're going to go ahead and remove this old O-ring. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and wipe this down with your rag. Now you get your new oil filter. Make sure you have the filter and your O-ring. Now if you have the other type of oil filter that goes underneath the car, you will have an O-ring that's already on the filter. So with this O-ring, take it out of the package, and then you're going to slip it on to the canister where the old O-ring was at. Just like that. And then with the new filter, it will clip on in the center of this with that. So you're going to put it in and it clips on just like that. And then with the oil filter, from the bottom or the top, you're just going to put it back and screw it on. Now if you're putting the oil filter on from the bottom, you can hand tight it snug, or you can get a tool and tighten it up. So we're going to want to tighten this up where it's nice and snug, where the seal will be firm and tight, just like that. And with this vehicle, we'll go ahead and put the air box back in with the oil filter, with air filter. And then we'll clip it back on. Next, what you're going to need is a funnel, just like this. And you're going to put it where the oil cap goes. Grab your oil, and we're going to start pouring. So for this vehicle, it's supposed to hold 4.5 quarts, or a little bit over. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fill it up with 4 quarts. So start slowly pouring so you don't spill it everywhere. And remember, on the cap it said 5W30 SAE, and this is the type of oil we're using. I'm using a synthetic, but you can use regular. Just make sure you look up the specs on your vehicle and see what type of oil is needed. Usually on the side of this oil, you will see a clear area that will show you 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liter, 4 liter, 1 quart, 2 quart, 3 quart, 4 quart, and what level it's on. So you can go by that and see how much you poured into the vehicle. You can see the oil is a lighter brown gold color. The oil that came out of the engine was a darker color. That tells you it's time to change the oil. A little bit over 2 quarts. So as of right now, it looks like we poured about 4 quarts in the engine. So we're gonna go ahead and wipe it down, close it up, and we're gonna check the dipstick. First, pull the dipstick out, wipe it, and then put the dipstick back in and check the level. Right now the level is halfway. We want to get to the safe mark, so it will need a little more oil. But before that, I'm going to go ahead, and since we have some oil in there, we're going to reverse the car to a leveled ground and then pour the rest to top it off. We're going to go ahead and top it off a little bit, maybe another half quart. Pull the dipstick out, check it again. See where the level's at. And it looks like it's in the safe area now. Once you've done that, go ahead and take the filter, put the cap back on, cover back on, and that's all to it. That's how you basically, on a basic note of changing an engine oil. If you have any questions or comment, please leave it down below. If this video has been helpful, please click the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about how a basic oil changes, this is basically basic right here. Till next time.